New York, the city that suffers from insomnia, has some pretty incredible stadiums in its own right. But as you might already know, there are a couple of major stadiums that are home to New York teams, located in New Jersey. Don't worry, in this video we'll be going through all the stadiums and arenas in the entire metro area, which includes parts of New Jersey and other states. So, here they are. I've set a capacity cutoff point of 10,000 for football stadiums and 5,000 for everything else. Red Bull Arena. What better way to start off than a stadium that's home to a team that sort of represents the entire metro area. New York in name, New Jersey in is where they play. It's an impressive stadium all round, but the roof might be its best feature. Not only does the curved design look rather sleek, but it keeps in the noise and lets in the light. It's comfortably the best soccer stadium in the metro area, because as you'll see later on, their MLS counterparts don't have one. Newark School Stadium. High school stadiums in the northern states typically aren't as extravagant as those in the south, where it gets a little ridiculous. But this one does have a little something. The stands are quite basic, they don't have facades or anything like that, but beyond the north end zone is a rather nice wall of arches, arcade wall. I forget what they're called, but well, you can see it. Nice touch. This site was once actually home to the Newark Tornadoes of the NFL. TD Bank Ballpark is built in the classic baseball style, with its red brick and exposed steel exterior, combined with a green roof, even with a bit of gable action, and a small grass embankment. But it does feature some more modern amenities, such as the party deck and 20 skyboxes. Beautiful ballpark. SHI Stadium. In a previous video I did pronounce the name as SHI Stadium. That was incorrect. It's actually named after a company, and I believe the initials stand for Software House International, formerly Software House International Technology. This sunken stadium has some nifty features, like this, which is not a party deck but a recruitment lounge. There's also a cannon that fires when Rutgers scores, which is actually somewhat common in college football. I also quite like this red roof section at the northern end. Jersey Mike's Arena. Their arena is one of the more unusual designs going round, particularly the exterior, which is a concrete trapezoidal prism. Due to this, the interior also looks a little odd. It is after all the same building. But one benefit of this design is that supposedly the crowd noise is reverberated more efficiently than at a conventional arena, making the 8,000 crowd sound like a 12,000 crowd? I don't know. SIUH Community Park. This is home to a team called the Staten Island Ferry Hawks. Called that because the ferry docks just a few hundred yards away, and hawks are cool. It has a bit of a maritime-inspired exterior. The seating layout is quite standard, but yeah, it's all about that view over to Manhattan. Doesn't get much better than that. Hinchcliffe Stadium. You might be wondering what in the name of SpongeBob happened here. Well, this historic venue is no longer in use, and please don't take SpongeBob's name in vain. This stadium did a lot in its time, hosting mainly high school football, but professional soccer and even baseball as well. As the high schools began to struggle, so did the stadium. Apparently there are better things for a school to spend money on, like learning and that. Yankee Stadium. Home to the world's most valuable baseball team, is itself the most valuable baseball stadium, I assume. It cost the most to build and it's in New York. The design mimics the old Yankee Stadium to such a degree that, if you were in a coma from 1990 to 2022, you could conceivably believe that it was the same stadium that has just been extensively renovated. One addition that the old stadium didn't have was an MLS team, All of a sudden, sitting behind home plate puts you miles from the action. Westchester County Center. This home of the Westchester Knicks is certainly unique. Not just the old school Art Deco exterior, but on the inside, it looks like a concert hall that is being converted into a basketball arena. There is still a stage, and it's still used as a stage, but they often put seats up there allowing for a larger basketball capacity. Pretty cool. Total Mortgage Arena. This is not only home to the Baby Knicks, but the Baby Islanders as well. Compared to the last one, it does just look like a standard modern arena, but it does have a lighthouse, if you want to call it that. On the inside, it too has something different at one end. Not a stage, but this section, where the stage goes during a concert. Clover Stadium. This is seemingly just a regular minor league ballpark with a clean modern design. But there's actually some rather nice stonework throughout the place, including an old-fashioned bridge with a bar underneath. The team is called the New York Boulders, so that probably has something to do with it. There's also all sorts of different seating options, and a 360-degree concourse. James M. Stewart Stadium. This one dates back to the 60s and was used mostly for football up until about a decade ago. But the school no longer has a football team, so this stadium is one of the few lacrosse-only venues of this size. Actually, you see the markings for a lacrosse field every now and then, but to see it without a gridiron overlay is a little unusual, much cleaner looking. Not far away is Mack Sports Complex, an arena that mightn't look all that special from the outside because it's not, but the interior is quite unusual, the seating layout in particular, with all the seating being retractable to allow for conventions and whatnot. It is normal for the lower seats to be retractable, but usually not the upper decks as well, as is the case here. Houlihan Park / Coffee Field. I kinda cheated with this one. The ballpark, Houlihan Park, doesn't meet the capacity requirement. Neither does the attached Coffee Field. But together, they do. And I mean, there's no reason the football stand couldn't be used to watch baseball. It would, however, make for a lopsided atmosphere. Baseball-football hybrids are actually quite common at smaller schools in New York. Land is costly. Yogi Berra Stadium. It's home to both a minor league team and a college team, the Jackals and the Red Hawks, although the Jackals are leaving next season. I said it in an earlier video, but isn't it fitting that Yogi Berra Stadium seems like a great place to have a picnic? No, but I should show some respect to Yogi Berra, at least until I get a stadium named after myself with an attached museum dedicated to myself. It could happen. Citi Field. It may have cost just half of their rival stadium, but a lot of people think it's better. I think it does look slightly better. On the outside, this too resembles an older stadium, Ebbets Field. Baseball fans seem to be a particularly nostalgic bunch. Perhaps the stadium's most well-known feature is the home run apple that rises after a Mets home run. Unfortunately, that means that Dr. Dre can never perform at this stadium, cause an apple a day keeps the doctor away. I never understood that saying. I would have thought a brick or a large stone would be more effective. Prudential Center. Before the New Jersey Nets moved to Brooklyn, this was going to be their home. It does still host some college basketball, but it's mainly a hockey venue. The Devils of the NHL being the primary tenant. It's a huge venue in more ways than just the capacity. It has a high ceiling and a gigantic video board. Was it a prudential decision for the Nets to move to Brooklyn? Well, yeah, their arena is pretty cool. We'll see that later. Wien Stadium. The site has been home to a football field for 100 years. But this particular stadium was built in the 80s. It's a fairly simple concrete structure. Well, this stand is kinda cool. But more importantly, if you're sitting up the very top, you get a view of the Hudson River. If you're lucky, you might even see a plane land on it, piloted by the same person who also captained a ship that was taken over by Somali pirates. That guy has been through a lot. MetLife Stadium. Unsurprisingly, given that it's home to 2 NFL teams, this is the largest stadium in the metro area. It mightn't be regarded as one of the best NFL stadiums, but it's still kinda interesting. Particularly the exterior made from glass and aluminum. Other than that, yeah, it mightn't be the most exciting design going round, but the amenities are up there with any other NFL stadium. Madison Square Garden is probably the world's most famous indoor sports venue, and for good reason. It's the oldest NHL and NBA arena. It has a unique design both inside and out, and despite its age, more money has been pumped into it than any other arena, so it's still in great condition. The only downside is the dozens of old ladies who visit expecting to see tulips and hedges. Confusing name. Union City High School and Athletic Complex. Okay, this one obviously doesn't meet the capacity threshold, but I had to include it. I mean, it sits on top of the school. Incredible. What they call higher education here is actually just PE. I'm guessing you'd have to pay a bit more for car insurance if you live nearby. There are big fences here, but they can't stop every foul ball, surely. Kenneth P. Laval Stadium. It's not your typical college football stadium, with most of the seating coming from a continuous lower tier that is rectangular rather than bowl-like. My favourite feature would have to be the grass embankment along the western sideline. It even has plenty of trees and branches and whatnot. They tend to go hand in hand. Quite idyllic. Barclays Center. The city's second NBA arena is a very impressive sight. The exterior is like no other. The shape, this screen, the intentional rusty nature of it, the greenery on the roof, it's all unconventional, but I like it. On the inside, well, it's not quite as distinctive as the exterior, especially since they got rid of their parquet floor a while back. Well, this grey one looks just as good, if not better. This is one of my favourite arenas for sure. Fairfield Properties Ballpark has been the home of the Long Island Ducks since it opened. It's seemingly a straightforward minor league ballpark, but a good one. It does include some interesting features that aren't immediately obvious. There's actually a beam from the World Trade Center within the stadium as part of a memorial. Nice touch. Princeton Stadium. This might be my favourite of the Ivy League stadiums. It's pretty much a modern take on its predecessor, which in itself was a modern take on an ancient stadium. Unlike its predecessor, the stands are very close to the field. Combined with the fact that they're kinda steep, makes for an intimate atmosphere. Interesting how it sort of merges with the adjacent track and field stadium. Jadwin Gymnasium. Much like their football venue, this one is quite special. It features a very distinctive roof and an interesting lighting system within. But perhaps the most unusual aspect of the venue is that it's not only home to basketball, wrestling, that kind of stuff, but there's a running track in here as well, which is, I believe, used for running. I'm not 100% sure, don't quote me on that. Forest Hill Stadium. This is a strange one. The playing area is telling me it's a tennis venue. Everything else is telling me it's a concert venue. That's a good point. It used to host what is now the US Open. After that left, the condition of this venue deteriorated for a while, but a few years back it was renovated into the primarily concert venue that it is today. Maimonides Park. This must be the only place in the world, where there is a home for sharks, an amusement park, a ballpark, a car park, and an arena named after Abe Stark all in a row. Much like the surrounding area, the colour scheme is also quite loud. Looks pretty good though. As does the backdrop, which is quite busy, but the ballpark itself even more so. It not only hosts several baseball teams, but a bit of rugby as well. Nassau Coliseum. This shiny arena was the longtime home of the New York Islanders, before they left just last year. It still gets a bit of use though in the form of minor league basketball and hockey, which is good because despite its age, it's still a top-notch venue, owing to the renovation not all that long ago that really invigorated it, especially the exterior. I mean, the difference is quite remarkable. The Islanders' new home is UBS Arena, not to be confused with USB Arena, which looks like a stick from memory. Just like the home of the Bridgeport Islanders, this place features some lighthouses incorporated into a brick exterior. The interior features an intimate quadruple-tiered seating bowl that even includes a standing section. It's the only venue in this video that's home to an ice hockey team and nothing else, although the occasional other event does occur here, as you'd expect. Arthur Ashe Stadium is the biggest purpose-built tennis venue in the world, and it certainly looks it. The seats just keep going up, all the way up to that retractable roof that was retrofitted just a few years ago. That roof cost a whopping $150 million. To put that into perspective, Princeton Stadium cost half that adjusted for inflation. Louis Armstrong Stadium. Firstly, no, he wasn't a tennis player. The late jazz musician lived nearby. The design is unique for a stadium with a retractable roof. It's naturally ventilated, so you can smell those trees of green and the red roses too. What a wonderful venue. This one is simply known as Grandstand. And just like Louis Armstrong Stadium, it's the second venue at Flushing Meadows to have that name. Obviously, the previous grandstand has been demolished. It has an interesting asymmetrical bowl layout, but other than that, it's quite simple. Icahn Stadium. I can't guarantee that's how to pronounce it. It's a purpose-built track and field stadium that hosts a Diamond League event every year. Yes, it's not just the Olympics. Track and field exists in non-leap years as well. The one and only stand at the venue does back onto a busy freeway, but it faces the Harlem River, which mightn't be as famous as the Harlem Globetrotters, but it too is not genuine. Man-made. Cure Insurance Arena. Surprisingly, that isn't a health insurance company, but a car insurance company. Yeah, I suppose that makes sense. You crash your car, you go to the mechanic to get it cured. This place has been home to numerous different teams of different sports over the years, but none of them seem to stick around for very long. Not sure why, seems like a nice venue. ShoreTown Ballpark. Amongst all the usual features you'd expect at a minor league ballpark, this place also has a so-called boardwalk, playing into the ShoreTown name. This boardwalk even includes a ring toss, balloon darts, and a 9-hole mini golf course if you can believe it. You don't even have to enjoy baseball to have a good time here. Yankee Field. Rutgers Soccer Stadium is about as simple as they come. The one and only grandstand is quite straightforward, and on the other side we have a grass bulge, but college soccer stadiums aren't usually very extravagant. To be fair, this video board in the corner is actually rather impressive. MSU Soccer Park. Another college soccer stadium, but it's also home to the New York Red Bulls' second team, which is surprisingly not known as Toro Rosso. It's a very plain and simple stadium. There's no artwork on the seats like at Red Bull Arena, but Red Bull Arena doesn't have a little forest along the western side of the ground, so... John F. Kennedy Stadium. When JFK said we choose to go to the moon and do the other things, I guess this stadium was one of the other things, although it probably wasn't very hard to build. It's not looking in the best of shape nowadays, but it's not quite as decrepit as the high school stadium we saw earlier. Trenton Thunder Ballpark. This is actually much closer to Philadelphia than New York, but yet it's still part of the New York metro area. Seems odd, but it'd take a braver man than me to question the United States Census Bureau. They know where you live. Anyway, it might not be close to New York City, but it's about as close as you can get to the Delaware River. The design is somewhat basic and traditional, but that's certainly no bad thing. Meadowlands Arena. Now this has been closed down for quite some time, but it's still standing, so of course I'm going to include it. It pretty much performed the role that Prudential Center does today. The major teams moved out, and as far as concerts and whatnot goes, this place only got its scraps. Eventually it became more or less redundant. It has since been used as a soundstage for TV shows and whatnot. Wall Stadium. It's a bit of an odd one. It was built by a wealthy couple who were stock car racing fans. Much like Forest Hill Stadium, it actually closed for a while and was later revived. I think it just hosts some minor events today. And those were the stadiums and arenas of the New York metro area. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, have a good one.